Hello, strangers, and happy Valentine's Day. This one is apropos for the occasion. It's story number 44. I'm a florist in a grocery store. It's not a bad gig. It's not an inherently dangerous job. I wasn't even the target of danger in this story. I'd be lying if I said I didn't think about it a lot, though. And every time I think about it, I feel the same unease. It was late on a Wednesday afternoon. We'd had our after-work rush. I was facing, that is, rearranging the many bouquets of flowers in their skinny black holders. I had a bit of a headache dancing on my temples from the rush, and from the night out at the pubs before. I had just kneeled to get to the bottommost row, but I perked up when a small voice, reedy and hesitant, said, Excuse me, sir." I turned and came face to face with a pair of fitted jeans. They had this little design around the pockets. Not rhinestones, but a lot of unnecessary, intentional stitching. I looked up at the owner of these pants and that voice, a woman in her 30s, pale and with a hopeful, nervous smile. She immediately apologized for bothering me, but not in the way people do when they mean it, right? When they mean it, they look a little surprised, like, "Oh, I didn't realize." But this lady had more of an insistent, "tell me I'm not a bother" style to her. So I did, by standing up and saying she was no bother at all, because words are free, and I was off in less than an hour. Her face immediately broke into relief below me. I had an easy 8 inches of height on her standing up. She craned her neck up to me, but not before I caught the glint of silver in her hair. The close angle in her round cherub face had me thinking before she was in her 30s, early 30s at that. From my new angle, I saw she was older, well on her way to 40 if she hadn't already made acquaintance with it. She smiled, then asked if I had any zinnias in stock. As I mentally skimmed through the usual inventory, she hastened to add that it had to be zinnias. They were symbolic. Also, for symbolism, they needed to be red. She lowered her voice and told me that red stood for passionate love, after all, then tittered a little laugh. Okay, then. Unfortunately, I knew that meant she was out of luck for the day. Our store did get a few mixed bouquets that had zinnias, but in their normal pink-purple color. As I told her this, she began to shake her head, saying, no, they had to be red. It was desperate important. I continued what I'd been saying, that she was out of luck that day, but we did get a load of fresh flowers every morning, didn't we? And if I put in a special order, I should be able to get her some in 1-2 days' time. She was big smiles again. She told me Friday was perfect, as he'd have the weekend to enjoy his delivery. Glad to have worked something out for her, I dusted my hands off on my apron and walked her over to the desk. I pulled out a special order form from a drawer. It took a bit to get her info down. Knowing she'd be getting her prized red zinnias, she was full to the brim with excitement spilling over in her girlish, thin voice. She was wanting them for her fellow. She hastened to add that maybe I thought her a bit barmy to be buying a man flowers, but gosh, men liked being treated too. Again, that sort of demanding note leaked into her voice. It wasn't "tell me I'm not a bother" this time, it was "agree with me that men like flowers." Smiles and words still being free and untaxed, I agreed with her. The opinion of me and my mates, that we'd rather take a pack of lager as highest affection any day over a bundle of plants, would have cost me a price I was slowly deciding I wasn't interested in paying. You see, you get feelings about people when you work in a service industry. Even I do, and I'm very bad at reading social cues. I've heard there's studies done about how you can tell a self-governing person, a person who will do the right thing regardless of who's about, by seeing if they return their shopping trolley or leave it shipwrecked on a curb in the lot. General advice columns that warn a girl to look to how a man they're out on a date with treats the waitstaff if they want to see what his character really is. Stuff like that. Well, we see a lot of people in the service industry, don't we? While I'm no expert on cold reads, I can get a general feel of a customer in the brief minute or so of making a sale. And this hen, she was giving off an odd vibe. Like the forced cheeriness and the girlish glee was a put-on, and it was put on over something else, something cunning. The little asides weren't natural, but intentionally slathered over what she actually was. She wanted to seem casual and cheery, but her glinty little eyes were intense. All of this to say, coupled with the headache, I was getting a really bad feeling about her. So I decided to be as agreeable as I could to make the encounter as short as possible. She did wax on about how wonderful her intended was, how he worked so hard at a thankless job as a creative, and how few saw his, quote, true genius. I took the hint, asking if he was an artist then, paintings and the like. She giggled again. That giggle was like an ice pick in my headache. She told me I was half right. She had this smug little smirk when she corrected me that made her look older yet. She told me he was an artist of video, documentaries about strange and wonderful things, strange events in history and the like. And wasn't she lucky to have stumbled across him years ago on her recommended page? I got the gist, understood the guy to be a social media person, a vlogger, or whatever. I was filling in the form, printing out red zinnias, pausing to ask how many stems she'd want. But she didn't give me a moment to ask. She was rattling on still, now about fair play, how keeping an audience entertained enough to stick around and click a sponsored link wasn't the easiest vocation, and so on. She'd began leaving comments, and the first one she ever left earned her a like from the creator themselves. And from there, per her, a love only possible in the digital age bloomed. When she said bloom, I saw my chance. I broke in to interrupt her soliloquy to get her take on the size of bouquet. With my own relief, I hit the last bit where the customer gives any special message for the little card. She posed over the little display of available designs. She clearly found our assortment lacking. Finally, she selected one with a teddy bear, another discordantly young choice, and with that knowing smile, she announced she had the perfect message for it. Always watching over you. As for putting her name, she declined. She wanted the card to only bear those 4 words. Now, come on. I may be going in on the old weapon, but tell me that isn't one of the creepiest things to say, even without it said in her breathy, girlish voice, trying to come across as young. I'd served many odd ducks, but that unease was roiling in my guts. Against my better judgment, I asked if she was sure that was all she wanted to write. She trilled another high-pitched giggle, saying it was a callback to one of his earliest videos some years back, about a nanny cam and a teddy bear being used for an illicit and dark purpose. Per her, he'd be delighted, chuffed and impressed at such a true and loyal fan, as he always was when she'd comment. And wasn't he always commenting back? The headache was drumming its fingers at this prolonged conversation, but I saw that expectation on her face. That, tell me you're not bothered. Tell me guys would choose flowers. Now ask how we met, look. I gave in and asked, so it was the commenting. That's how you met then. She had a whole spiel, clearly prepared. She said that when she'd seen his comment, cheeky little wink in response to one of hers, she knew he was speaking in code, which she understood completely. He couldn't be flirting with her like school kids after all. His other fans would have been green with envy if he was overt. He was very handsome, she assured me. But he would drop comments, even repeat phrases in his video that she had commented prior. Plain as day, he was communicating with her directly. She finally finished her story and the order, and shuffled off, leaving me feeling not good about the interaction. But having nothing obvious or objectionable to use, even to bring up, what could I do but place the order and try to put it out of my head? It was near end of my shift, and hair of the dog was in order to take the edge off of my hangover. I placed the paper on the desk with the other few special orders I'd taken through my shift. The close-up crew generally placed the orders at end of day, and I was working the mid-shift. I was glad to put the paper down, like dropping it was dropping the whole interaction. I finished up and handed the business off to the closing girl, trusting a pint or two would put the mess behind me. And for a time, it did. I didn't see the woman again. But when I came into work a few weeks or so later, it was for the closing shift. A little sheaf of special order forms was waiting for me to enter into the old dinosaur of a desktop computer through which we placed our orders. I worked through them, and at the bottom of the stack was a familiar name. When I typed her last name into our little database, the information auto-filled. My heart in my throat, I realized that while I'd never laid eyes on her myself before Red Zinnias, she was a repeat customer at our grocery chain. On 4 occasions prior, she'd ordered flowers sent to an address up near Newark-on-Trent. Red zinnias, yes, but also red camellias, red salvia. A lot of red. Not this order, though. This order was blue. Blue dahlias. Another difference, all previous orders were a delivery to that same Newark-on-Trent address. But this one was a pickup. Something about that. It caught and snagged me like when your jumper pocket catches a doorknob. She'd described a relationship of videos and comments. The flowers were always delivered, which was sort of a match for it, sending something off to him like you'd send off a comment. There's distance there, not bringing something to him in person, right? But here they were, blue flowers, in person. In the database, under past orders, people could leave notes, usually useful things like, "They have a dog, but he's friendly," or "Delivery to the house round the garden, not front door." I clicked through the red zinnia order and saw a comment that I hadn't taken. It must have been logged after the delivery. No friendly note about Bongo the pug here. The comment under the order was a note that tersely stated, "Delivery refused." Had anyone told her? I thought back to those sharp eyes, seeming to peek through the cherub mask. I doubted very much any of us wage slaves would have risked that mask slipping by telling her that her thoughtful gift was refused. But then, was that why she was picking them up this time? Cutting out the middleman to deliver them directly? We had a little dictionary pamphlet of flowers and meanings on the florist's desk. I drew it towards me, thumbing to the tuber section and finding the listing for dahlia. Hadn't she been one to prattle on about meanings of flowers and colors? So I read the meaning they had listed for her latest order. It did not fill me with optimism. Dahlias were listed as being symbolic of commitment, eternal love, be mine forever. Color was similarly defined as blue, a new chapter, a fresh start, good for wedding bouquets. I've asked my mates. There's no clause of confidentiality in the flower biz. They are of the mind that agrees with mine. This is not good. It's Friday evening as I write this, with her planned pickup on Sunday. I've the boy's contact information from the computer at work, sure enough, and I've penned a detailed email. I can hope it's a misunderstanding. I can hope I misread or read too much into it. but instead, I'm saving my hope for a different thought. I hope he reads it in time.
Well, that's horrifying. It kind of reminds me, when I was in school, they used to list everybody's phone numbers and addresses in the school directory. As a kid, you don't really think about the implication. It's just school gives your parents a form, they fill it in, end of. Nowadays, I look back on that and think, maybe that wasn't the wisest idea. Happy Valentine's Day, strangers. May it be a lovely and safe one for all of you. Like, comment, subscribe, all or none. Just know I'm grateful to you for coming by. Take care, strangers.